Welcome, everyone, to the Beacon of Light podcast tonight. We're sorry for missing last week, but we're so excited to be back here tonight, 7:30 Central Time for anyone who's out there. Please pop in, tell us where you're from, and share with us a little bit about this conversation that we're going to be having tonight. Tonight, I want to introduce everyone to an amazing woman, and this woman, her name is Stacey Lucas. Say hello, Stacey.
Hi, everybody.
So Stacey and I met in a really interesting way where she had connected with me about doing some writing, and I was really excited about this opportunity and jumped on. And when she shared parts of her story with me, I was like, mouth open, huh? Okay, like, let's do this thing. Sometimes story just really brings people in and you just think, how is this actually going to go about? So before we dive into any of that, let's kind of share where we're from tonight. I am broadcasting down here in Kyle, Texas. And Stacey, where are you broadcasting from tonight?
I'm in Lexington, Kentucky.
Excellent. Sorry, I had to spell all of that out. It's a lot to worry about with your fingers. I'm sure there's a sign somewhere, but I don't know that. So spell it out. There we go. Well, it looks like we've got some viewers here popping in. And so, Stacey, while you're here tonight, share with us a little bit about who you are, and then we're going to jump right into the topic tonight.
I'm Stacey Lucas, and I live in Lexington, Kentucky. Like I said, I have 2 children and 3 grandchildren, which are pretty much my whole life. So I work in the medical field, and 2 years ago, I heard God, kind of lay on my heart that I needed to quit my job in that field for a while and write this book. And while I was stuck in how to even begin to tell this story, because at that time I didn't even understand this story, that's where April came in and really helped me put the words on paper.
Yes, and that has been such an incredible time to have been a part of that writing and listening to the story and then transcribe the journals, understanding and putting it in, story format, and that ability where, sometimes in our journaling, we really have to do a lot of processing. So journals are fantastic to grab from, and then we have to take all that's there, understand it, and then produce the writing. And so it was really a joy for me to get in to understand who Stacey was. And it's something so much deeper than interviewing, right? It's this real connection and bond. And Stacey's story pulls you in anyway. And we're going to share a little bit about that story, but that's not going to be the full focus. She's been led in a lot of different directions from when we first started together, which was over a year ago. And so it's really, really exciting. So Stacey, share with us a little bit about this story, and then we're going to get into that next part of what we can do about it.
Okay. My story actually started 8 years ago. I can't believe it's already been that long. I met my family for a Christmas thing, and then it just felt like all of a sudden I was shot in the back of the head. It was a very pinpointed pain in the back of my head and lasted probably 20 minutes. It was a very, very bad pain. It was like it exploded in my head. And then 2 times later over the weekend, it happened again. It felt like someone would just hit me upside the head with a baseball bat. And then on Monday, I woke up and I couldn't talk. It was like my speech was gone. I just talk like this in a whisper. My heart was racing. Several other symptoms were coming up. And this went on for 2 years without any answers. I went to Mayo Clinic twice. I went to Vanderbilt. I went to several different doctors, every test that you could imagine, and no one could figure out what was wrong with me. I had never been sick before, not even really a strep throat or anything for years. And I've worked in the medical field my whole life, so I wasn't sure. I knew I was sick, so I couldn't understand why the doctors couldn't figure it out. Even they were sending me to psychiatrists and just different things, and no one could figure out what was wrong with me. I had heart surgery because my heart rate got up to 236. It was a very, very difficult time. You really feel like you're going crazy. The adrenaline rushes are coming. So it was after my last visit to Mayo Clinic that I decided I couldn't live like that anymore. I decided, I had to figure out what was wrong with me, and it wasn't going to be in the mainstream medicine. So through a doctor that I worked with that worked in complementary medicine or holistic medicine, she had started speaking to me about different practices and stuff that maybe I could try. But at that time, I wasn't ready because I knew something was wrong with me, and I couldn't understand why people could not figure it out. But after that second time, I went and I started Reiki, which is something I had never done before. It's a type of healing that kind of helps move the energy and helps the Reiki practitioner pinpoint where maybe the sickness or the illness comes from. I didn't understand it really a whole lot about Reiki at that time, but I was desperate and just really wanted to try something. So it was during Reiki, probably about the third session was the first time that I heard what I know now is the Holy Spirit speaking to me. At that time, I didn't understand exactly what it was. I just know that it was love and light and just total warmth. And there's really no words to describe it. And that voice said, great things will come from this. And this isn't just about you anymore. So after trying to figure all of that out, I went to the next session, which was with acupuncture. And I had never had acupuncture before, but it was during one of those sessions that I had a vision. And it was a very beautiful, I was just in all this light vision and just this comfort. And then it was after that vision that the lady that was doing the acupuncture told me why I was sick, why none of the physical doctors could find the physical illness. And she told me that I had been attacked by an evil entity, that it was a spiritual attack that was making my body sick. At that time, I had no idea what that even was. I didn't even know that was even an option. I'd never heard of it. I'd never spoken with anyone. I had never even thought that was even, it wasn't even on my radar as a possibility. But I knew as soon as she said those words that what she said was true. I just knew it in my heart. And I think it was because of the voice and the vision that God was preparing me for those words. So she told me after that it was more than what she could do. So she sent me to her mentor, her boss. And so it was during that it was during acupuncture. He had told me he was a Christian. He had told me that he knew as a child that this was something that God had brought into his life, that something that God was going to use him for. And so I was laying on the table, still not knowing what to expect. And he starts sticking the needles in, and the pain was excruciating. I don't know if it was just the physical pain but it was like it was emotional pain. It felt like it was coming from everywhere in my body. And after about 15 minutes of that, I was crying, and I was finally just cried out. I was like, Jesus, I can't do this anymore. Please help me. And it was in that moment that I saw Jesus. And he was standing at my head, and he had his hands at my head, and he had light coming from his hands. And he said, breathe in the light. Just breathe in the light. And so I started just focusing on just bringing that light through my whole body, just picturing it going through everywhere in my body. And after just a few minutes, I'm not for sure how long it actually was. I was just so overwhelmed with the love of it. The pain went away. everything just went away. And after just a few more minutes, the acupuncture, the guy that was helping me with that came in, and I was healed. Everything was gone. From that moment, I never had another symptom after 2 years. And all I felt was just this comfort and this peace. Uh, but I didn't understand. I wasn't a practicing Christian at that time. I was a Christian. I believed in everything, but I wasn't actively. I was not living a good lifestyle at that time. And so, although I didn't understand what exactly had taken place, I did know that I was healed. And so, from that point on, for the next 6 years until now, was the hard part, because I realized that even though my physical body was healed, um, that my spiritual and my soul still needed a whole lot of work. So the next 6 years, all the way up till now, I'm still working. It was learning what happened, developing that relationship with God, reading the Bible, doing a lot of soul work, really starting to focus on my physical body, and just realized, like my book says, it's a journey to complete healing. And complete healing is so much more than what your physical body feels like. So that is like the condensed version of my story. So much has happened between that. God has led me to so many different places and so many amazing things, until tonight when I'm here with April.
Well, I tell you what, it was such an incredible experience to read through and to help write and construct this story. As a
And I had
ghostwriter,
hundreds of journals, so don't let April. She was shocked at how much I had journaled this experience.
it was fantastic. I had a whole library to pick and choose from. I felt like I was shopping. I'm like, pick this, little this, dash of that. It was really amazing
Mm-hmm.
to see how it all kind of gelled together. And what was also interesting as the writer, there were times where I'm like, okay, this looks good. And then I would start and I'm like, nope. Okay, put it over there. We'll look it over here. And that was really fun to be guided like that. And then we would have good conversations back and forth through the process to see, clarify things, look at things. And in fact, there were a few stories that are those
That I
stories.
didn't want to add.
Right. She did not want to add, well, I'll just say for embarrassment, for fear, it's too much. It's so heavy. But we need to have an emphasis. And suddenly poetry came into play that helped to summarize a few things, but you still get the emotional connection without having to go through all of the blah, all of
Mm-hmm.
that depth, but you still get to see and understand, okay, this is where growth is going. So like Miss Stacey said, journeys, they don't really end, right? They have this
Mm-hmm.
opportunity for us to really grow and develop. And in that growth and development, I think we all might call it something different. For myself, I call it a learning zone, because that is the place where, we get kind of beat up, roughed up, keep learning, keep growing, keep refining, keep all of those things happening. But then there's a time of rest and reflection and understanding, and then it goes right back into it again. But each time you get stronger and stronger, and that's the journeying about about everything. And so, Stacey, now that you've discovered, figured out, and now you're on this other side, and all the reflection and the peace and things have happened there, and now you're journeying forward. What is it now that you want to bring to the people who read this book and beyond? What is it that you want to do?
Well, when I first finished reading the book, writing the book, which that was 2 years of rest per se, which was, if, I'm sure, like April, rest is very hard for some of us, but it was definitely a big part of that journey. That at first I wanted to focus on the fact that spiritual attack happens, and it does. And I've learned so much through that. God has showed me so much through that happening. But the reason that happened to me was because of the emotional, the spiritual, the physical, the mindset that I was in at that time. I had been through a divorce. Uh, I was making poor choices. I was drinking more than I should have been. I had so much shame, so much blame, and so much pain that I was living through at that time. So that just really opened the door, per se, for that spiritual attack, for the enemy just to come in and I welcomed it because I did, number one, didn't know any better, and number two, I just did not feel I was worthy of anything else.
Oh, keyword there, keyword there. You didn't feel worthy. And so anyone else out there have ever had that unworthy feeling before? I
Yeah.
think so many of us have, yes.
And so now, though, through more of the journey, I thought the journey was over and I was ready to move on. But in the my book was actually published in October, but God decided I needed more of the journey and more of the learning. So I had to go through more of the crushing and the more of the growing and just coming through that. But what I have learned more now on the other side of that is that I've learned these great techniques or these great thought processes that I know will keep that from happening to me again.
So all of
Yes,
that
I
was
will.
prevention.
Prevention. And so that is my goal now, is to just help women who feel broken, who feel hopeless, who feel so much pain and blame and shame, uh, to just tell them, that they are worthy and show them the things that they can do for themselves so that spiritual attack won't happen to anyone else,
Yes.
because you have the control, you have the power to control that. You just have to see it within yourself. And at that time, I did not see that within myself. Now I do. Now I recognize whenever I'm going down that road again. And I know to utilize the tools that I've learned to keep me from going into that darkness again.
Yes. And that is so key. How many of you out there would love to have those tools to remind us, to remember, to help us as it comes upon us, because it's never stopping, right?
No.
Satan's never going to stop. He's just going to continuously fire away. And so sometimes when a little maybe chink in our armor allows a little bit in, that little wedge, we can recognize, wait a minute. Hang on. That's not okay. And protect and keep moving forward, as opposed to it just shredding through and then all things are lost. And it can be tough. Lori, I agree. It says when we're beat down, we just say, okay, this is just how we
And
are.
it just opens the doors
Yeah.
up. Your thought process is the doorway for Satan to use you, for your thoughts. When you're constantly beating yourself down, when you're constantly letting someone else beat you down, it could go either way. And then that's just the foothold Satan needs to say, okay, I'm going to use her now.
Right. And so you want to prevent that. We want to be able
Yes.
to stop those things. So some of the tools that you have now, since you've gone through this journey, what are they for yourself and that you can share with all of us here?
I just make a conscious effort every day. And I stopped looking at it as body, soul, and spirit now, because, it's the combination. And every day I wake up and I look at it as health, happiness, and holiness. What can I do for my physical body health today? And so, of course, started, eating healthier, exercising, drinking water, and things have made a huge difference. So for my happiness, that's my soul. What can I do to make my soul happy today? What can I do that brings joy? And if someone wants me to do something now, instead of feeling like I have to be a people pleaser and jump right in there and do it, if it doesn't bring me joy, I tell myself it's okay not to do it. And then, of course, the holiness is I've developed, learned. I spend every morning in scripture and study and prayer and meditation. And that is something in my life that is non negotiable. Whether it's 15 minutes or it could even be up to a couple hours or more. It could be, reading the Bible, or it could just be listening to worship music, or it could just be praying. That has been the huge turning point for me.
Yes.
And that's not negotiable in my life.
I love it. I love it. Right. When you find those tools, that is something that is really, really powerful that we have to have that strength to come through, to be a part of it. And it's non-negotiable. That's the time that we are in that connection. You get to probably have some revelation with that, understanding of what to do. And I wouldn't assume that every day is like, whoa, here comes the next
No,
thing.
it's not. Some days I'm like, well, that was a waste of 15 minutes,
But it helps to keep ourselves, it's just like anything else, kind of like
It is.
the brushing of the teeth, right? Every day, do it for prevention. And,
Yes.
sometimes it feels maybe a little laborious, but really, really, it's protective. It's always the small things, right? Because
Yes.
because we're looking all the time for the big things, right? We're looking out for the kidnappers. Right? We're looking out for the big, small. It's that small word, that little cutting joke, that little, you can eat that. It's just one more, right? It's the little stuff. And so when we think about protecting ourselves and putting on the full armor of God, right? Sometimes we think, well, wait, you mean that's just like that's reading scripture and prayer and just keeping the steady things going? Like, we have to connect, feed, help ourselves to be protected every single day. There's safety checks, and that's what happens when we go through it. So yeah.
Especially, I've learned, if you feel like that God's leading you to your purpose, if you feel like, you're feeling it in your soul, in your heart, that you have this passion for something that God's leading you to, you're going to go through the hard, painful part of it to get there. So because you are most definitely going to need all these practices put in place for you to move into that. I don't know how many people have come up to me and say, I feel like I'm being called for something, but I just can't figure out what it is. I feel like I have a purpose, but I just don't know what it is. Well, my advice to that is get yourself ready. Prepare, whether you know what it is or not. Prepare yourself, because that's whenever you're going to be under the most attack.
So how do we prepare ourselves, Miss Stacey?
And that is whenever you start hearing those negative thoughts come in your head, when you start thinking, oh, I'm just going to sit here on the couch all day, or when you think I'm just going to go out drinking all night, or just different things like that, that is just going to open up the door, just stop and say, okay, what can I do to be better, to do better, to make myself better today? And it only has to happen in that moment. I mean, tonight or whatever, you may do something that you feel like is not, on that path, but don't beat yourself up over it. We all make mistakes. Just say, okay, I did that. That doesn't mean I'm down. Let's do better than, the next moment.
Right. We've got some great people popping some of these great comments up here. Prepare for your purpose. Take every thought captive. I love it. So continue on, Miss Stacey.
Well, I actually, whenever I was healed, I developed gifts that I had no idea how to operate in. I didn't even know what was going on. So that was a whole journey in itself. But I also have gotten so much hope and education through volunteering at sex trafficking rescue. That is one of my passions, because there's so much evil in there, and these people, these beautiful women and children who have no idea what's really going on, they really need people like us that have experienced that darkness to really just come in there and just kind of help them walk out of the light, walk into the light. So I created these t-shirts that say what they are. God says you're worthy. God says you're brave. God says you're lovable. God says you're kind. God says you're forgiven enough. And so these vulnerable, very vulnerable people, women don't realize that they've, everything that they are has been taken from them. So I designed these shirts, and then on the back it says, I am not. And so they will take markers and they will write on there everything that other people have told them. That's not who they are. That's not who they are. And so then whenever they're having a bad day, or whenever their mind is telling them, I'm a piece of crap, or I'm fat, or I'm ugly, or, I'm a loser, just whatever those negative thoughts are, they can take out their t-shirt and just look at it and say, no, this is who God says I am. This is all that matters. None of that other stuff that people say I am matters.
Yes.
So,
The mindset has such power.
yes, your thoughts.
Words, thoughts, because those words and thoughts always lead to action. So why not put it in those positive things? Linda loves your
Yeah.
shirt. Linda says, awesome t-shirt.
Thank you.
Yes, Linda,
Yeah.
very, very cool. And it's just so true. It's just that concept. I will never forget when I fully understood it, but it wasn't until I was 43
Mm-hmm.
when I
Well, I was
finally got
50.
finally got the impact to really get it. Of I don't have to do anything to prove my
Who I am.
love, who I nothing,
Mm-hmm.
because I have a life, I have light, therefore I have love. Period. And I have to, for the few years, I really, really had to, I would say, repeat that continuously
Mm-hmm.
until I fully accepted it. And now, what's so fun, this is kind of a little bit off topic, but the point is like, my husband will say, "You are beautiful." And I'll say, "Thank you." And I rise into it and say, "Oh, I just
Yeah,
rise into it
exactly.
and take it." And like it changes and shifts. And when I look at even pictures of myself, you can see more and more light, more love, more acceptance because I finally get
Exactly.
it. I finally get it. So it is really cool to see an actual physical transformation that happens. So that negative voice, that negative mindset is something that we're constantly battling. So we can always look behind us in that dark, face the light, and
Like,
stay there.
exactly.
So it's always our
And,
choice.
as women, that is just something very difficult for us to do, just to take that time and just love ourselves.
Yeah,
No matter what anybody else says about us or what happens in our life, just taking that time, even if it's just 20 minutes a day, if that's all you have, just to spend time with just loving yourself, having grace with yourself. You may mess up, later on in the day, but it doesn't matter. Just take that time and just say, okay, I'm enough. I'm worthy. I am loved. I can do this. What can I do for myself in this moment to keep me strong?
right.
Because
Very,
whenever
very
I was
cool.
going through this, it was moment to moment. I couldn't even think about what was going to happen then, the next day or the next hour. This journey for me has been moment to moment, one step at a time.
Yes. So, Lori, I saw your comment there. That part of having the hard time with it still, it's
Mhm.
okay. I think
Yes.
I think the more that we accept and just take it moment to moment,
Mhm.
the more we just start to open our heart even more to accept them inside even more and more and more. And I'll never forget hearing the first time the little saying, "God don't make no junk." And I was like, "Oh, that's kind of cute."
That's good.
But then going deep into it, like, it's absolutely right. You look at any
Mhm.
creation everywhere, the creation, the beauty, and just to kind of jump into this, you created, a t-shirt, right? And whether they put words or they put a picture there, draw something out, whatever,
Mhm.
it's creation and it's mindset and it's allowing it to come together. And we know, when you crack open the Bible and you start reading, his words cause the creation. So if words can create, they can create positively as well as negatively. Why do we think we have that negative, which I call the shame shadow, always going off,
Mhm.
right? Because it wants you to change and become that negativity and believe that.
Mhm.
Well, surprise them, kick them in the rear, and and go over to
Yeah.
the right. See what's going to happen. If we've been doing the negative side for so long, fine. Try that positive side and accept and believe it. Because wow, changes can happen.
Yes, they can.
Unbelievable.
It takes while. It takes a while. You know, you're gonna have days. I still have days to where I'm just like, what is wrong with me? You know, I just want to be depressed today. I just want to, lay around and feel sorry for myself today. And that's okay. You know, that's going to happen too. But just get up the next day, start all over, and say, today is going to be a good day.
That's
I'm
right.
grateful for today.
Grateful for today. It's a do-over. I had a
Yes.
do-over last week.
Yes. I've
Yeah.
had several do overs recently. That's for sure. That's
Right,
for sure.
right.
I think me and you shared some of the do-overs for a while.
We did. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. Right. I know, Kathy, it's a great saying, right? God don't make no junk.
Yeah, that
First
is
time
good.
first time I heard that, I was a missionary going into the mission field and there with my mission president and my mission president's wife. And she sat us down and she held all of our hands and she said, I want you to know that God don't make no junk. So it was like
I love that.
this thing to reach to everybody. Who am I to decide? Probably shouldn't talk to you, but maybe I could talk to you. No, just open your mouth and go.
And love.
And
Love.
just love. It was amazing, and learning those pieces definitely was putting into my little, the little pocket into my heart and learning more. But I have to say, the opposition is true, right? As soon as you start to learn more and more and more,
The
you're
more and
not
more it's
out
gonna come
but
at you.
that's exactly
Mhm.
right. So there's a balance in the universe, right? From
Yes.
the largest sun to the darkest black hole, there's an opposition, but you have the choice. Which one are you going to choose to follow and look for? So excellent.
Yes.
Yep. All right, Linda, thank you so much for adding all of that. It is true. It is absolutely true.
Yes,
Everybody,
it
this
is.
has been a beautiful evening. So, Stacey, what's the last thing that you want to leave us with tonight?
The last thing is don't give up. No matter what you're going through, no matter how far you feel beaten down, uh, don't give up. You don't have to take giant steps. Just reach out, call someone, message me. I'd be more than happy to talk to you. Just reach out and look up. God will pull you up. That's with on my book. That's a lot of times. The picture on my book is God reaching down his right hand to pull me up toward me because there were so many times I was literally on the ground not knowing if I could even get up another moment. And I could just picture him reaching down, giving me that little bit of nudge and pulling me back up. And so that is my biggest thing that I want to get to women, especially, is don't give up. There is hope. You're not hopeless. You are worthy of all the love in the world. Your circumstances do not define who you are. And reach out to anyone to help you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Stacey. And thank you, Lori, Linda, Kathy, everyone who was joining us this evening. It's been a wonderful, wonderful evening. That's it for
Thank
tonight's
you.
Beacon of Light podcast, and we will catch you again next week. See ya.
Bye.